So now we've got our staff menu built, and there's really not a lot else that we're going to want to do to this staff area for now. Eventually, we'll want to build the add user page and the logout page that it links to, but for now, we want to go back to that blueprint and remember that we want to concentrate next on that manage the website content chunk. So let's go to that now, and we've got content.php is the file that we created. If I double click, I just get basic HTML that I copied over. So let's work on this page in this movie and see if we can't get the beginnings of our content management system started. I'm going to option click onto my desktop just to hide that quickly. You can just minimize it. And I'm going to come back and open up content.php. Now we're going to want to reuse that same structure that we were just using on the staff menu. So let's go ahead and open that up as well. Now we have both of those. And as a starting point, let's go ahead and just grab all of that. I'm just going to Apple C copy it and just come over here and select everything that's here and just paste it in. So now I've got an exact duplicate of the staff menu. Now that's not very helpful, but it does give me quickly all of the structure that I was working with before. Now I told you in the earlier sections that one of the things that's really going to separate the good programmers from the great programmers is how well we can use includes and functions and things like that to not repeat ourselves. So let's go ahead and take a look here. We'll see that we've already repeated ourselves a lot by copying this over. We want to reuse a lot of these elements. We want them to be the same. But for example, on every single one of our web pages, we're going to want to call HTML, head, title, the same style sheet, close the head, and the body. And we're going to want the same header with widget corp at the title, and div, and even main. All of those are going to be repeated on every single page. And maybe we could go ahead and take a little bit more than that. But for now, I'm just going to say, let's grab this bit of text that's right here, and let's just copy that. I can do that from the edit menu by selecting copy, or I can use Apple C. I'm going to make a new file. So new, and just paste that in there. So this is my header that's going to happen on every single page. So since we're going to reuse it so often, let's put it into one of our includes files. We'll put it into the includes folder, and then we can use PHP to include that at the top of every file. So let's do a save as, or actually we can just do a save because we haven't saved it yet. And inside Widget Corp, inside our includes folder, we're going to save it and we'll call it header.php. Now we could call it header.html because it just has HTML in it, but I'm going to stick with PHP in case we decide we want to drop PHP in there later. And I'm going to do that for all of my files. As long as I'm working on a PHP website, I tend to go ahead and call everything PHP. And that way I don't have to worry. I can just open up a file and drop PHP into it and know that it's going to work. So now I'm able to close that file and switch back over to content.php. I can delete everything that was there, and in place of it, I can put a bit of PHP. PHP, include, and then the name of the file. And the file is going to be inside our includes folder, and then it's going to be called header.php. Semicolon at the end, and there we go. So let's go ahead and take a look at this before we do anything else. Let's open up Firefox, and let's just reload that content page. It works. It included it just fine. We can do the same thing with the footer. We're going to want to have the same thing here. Since I started with the table structure here, I'm going to stop with the table structure here and grab everything that's below it, and I'm going to copy it, open a new document, paste it in, and save that document into that includes folder. So once again, into Widget Corp, into includes, and we'll call this one footer.php. And then I can close that up, erase everything that's there, and for efficiency, I'll go ahead and just copy that line at the top where I got the header, and instead of the header, now I'm going to ask for the footer. Save the document, and I can go ahead and actually move my table back over a bit. In TextMate, I can do that by holding down the Apple key and the square left bracket, and that'll just drop the tabs back out of there. And I can save the document. It's a lot cleaner already, right? This looks a lot better. And I'll go back to Firefox and reload it. And you can see it still looks great. Now, we're looking at the content.php page here, even though we got the staff menu still in the middle of it. Let's go ahead and do the same thing to the staff menu so that it can make use of that same code. Since we haven't changed anything to the inside here, this is basically still the staff page, I can actually just do a select all with Apple A or you can do select all this way. You'll see it's just the flower A key. Yep. I'll copy that. We'll switch back to the staff page and just paste it in, save it, and close it. So now, both our pages are using the same header. We're already using PHP to make our lives a lot easier. If we change the name of the style sheet that it's supposed to link to, if we want to put in some better header tags, maybe some meta information like keywords or something links to JavaScript files that are going to be called on every page, now we can do it in one and only one place. Plus, we've also made our page here, content.php, a lot cleaner and easier to work with. Before we leave the subject of includes, let's go ahead and create one more file that we can use to include. I'm just going to do a new file, and I'm going to not put anything in there at all yet. I'm just going to go ahead and save this file in that includes directory, nothing in it yet, and let's just put it inside Widget Corp, inside includes, and it's going to be called functions.php. And that's going to give me a place where I can put all of my functions that I want to call. I've got now a library of functions that I can include. I'll go ahead and just, even though I don't have any functions yet, I'll go ahead and put in a simple comment here that says, this file is the place to store all basic functions. There we go. I'll save that. Now, I said all basic functions because I might want to put specialized functions in another includes file that doesn't get loaded in all the time. But this functions file, I'm going to load in on every single page. So I'm just going to do a copy of this includes line here for the header, and I'm now going to include functions. I'm going to do it before the header because we might end up using some of those functions in the header. So the functions right now is going to be the very first thing I'll call. It'll load in all the PHP functions, and then it'll start processing my page. So already by using includes, we've made our workspace a lot cleaner and more efficient so that we can work better. Now, there are a couple more changes I want to make before we move on to the next movie, and that's let's go ahead and change this to just say content area for now, just so we don't get it confused. And we'll go ahead and just get rid of this staff area. And you want to make sure that you are working in content.php here and not in the staff menu. So that'll get that out of there. There's one final change I want to make to this page before we leave it, and that is we included the functions. And instead, I'm going to include once, because you remember that we only want to have the functions declared one time or we'll get an error. So that's a great way to make sure that we only include the function file once. Even if header asks for the functions as well, if they're already loaded, we won't have a problem. I'm also going to go ahead and make this into require. And you'll remember that there's just a slight difference in the amount of insistency that PHP will require that the file be there, and it'll return an error and say, sorry, I can't do anything else because I can't find the functions file. Whereas include, it's just HTML, so there's no real damage. If it's not there, I won't get my style sheets, but the page will still go ahead and function and work. So that's where I'm going to draw the line between require once and include. In truth, you could require both, you could include both, but the important part is that for the functions, we want to make sure we do it only once so that we make sure we don't run into any problems with redeclaring those functions. So now we have the basics of the content page ready. We have a structure, and what we need now is to access the database and to use those skills we learned with how to connect to a database to create ourselves the navigation menu that's over to the left. And then once we do that, we'll be able to work on the areas where we edit that content over on the right. So let's look at the navigation and database connectivity next.